Well, what will happen is there's going to be a war, but it's going to be brush fire, proxy wars that will happen in, I call it global gentrification, like what's happened in Ukraine, where they take, because think about this, right? The biggest like weapon that any people have, and this is why they've done like massacres in like Vietnam and in like Cambodia, is the amount of people, the human beings, the your ability to have humanity under a social cause, right? So a great way to remove that is to just feed them into a fucking meat grinder, like what they've done in Ukraine and what they've done with Russia, where it's like there's a this region of people that both sides need to destabilize. So they just turn on the meat grinder, and the meat grinder turns on, and both sides think that they're fighting for something that is worth fighting for. But all is happening is they're being put into a meat grinder. And the meat grinder is contained, and it will remain contained. And that's like a part of the thing about like they want us to think that it's bigger, that there'll be a threat of global of nuclear war. But nuclear war isn't, because nuclear war is survivable, right? Like there'll still be a tomorrow when the nukes get dropped. As much as we try to envision it as like this finality, it's not a finality. It will not be cinematic. There will be somebody who wakes up the next day. The earth will continue to spin, you know? And that means that it's just not financially, it's not, nuclear war isn't profitable. What is profitable is making everybody think that we're about to go to nuclear war and have just this like, World War 2.3, right? Like this, we're always on the brink of World War 3, but it never comes. And that's the perfect situation for the West to heighten tensions with, like what's happening again in the Ukraine, where it's like they can just continuously heighten tensions, and then Russia just does one simple move, and it sparks what could be considered like World War III, right? Both sides are obviously in the wrong, and they're doing, it's like I said, it's global gentrification, where they're just feeding. It doesn't matter whose side is on who. They need to destabilize a region for a geopolitical reason, which is like the Azov Sea, and getting access and destabilizing and like redeveloping that whole area. So that's what's going to happen in Africa. And it's going to literally happen in, like, probably by the end of the year, where there will be an outright proxy war in Africa. And then that will probably happen in South America, Central America, Southeast Asia. The biggest thing is like places like, think about like places like Bangladesh, places like where they have this untapped, places where they have crazy amount of population, right? Similar to Africa. That's why they want to do places like Africa, because they want, like, if you look in Niger, they had like, yes, they had like 40,000 people volunteer for the Niger public militia. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like, good for them, but also those people are all going to get fed to the meat grinder, and that is going to create mass destabilization, and that then makes it so that, then you could start building. Then you're right. Then you have this. You're replacing those people that were there with new people, which is the same thing that's happening in the Ukraine. Like, you're wiping out an entire generation of people and then replacing them with another generation of people over time. That's literally what like Putin said when he talked about like the denazification. And that's, both sides are saying that to each other, because that's what they're that's literally what they believe. Like, and yeah, but the thing about it though is that there is like a it's really hard to it's really hard to see what's happening. I don't really know. I had to check out because there's so much like back and forth, and it's hard to follow without getting like drawn into reactionaryism with the war in Ukraine. So I had to like completely check out and just like casually observe. But like what's happening is there's like a soft civil war happening within Russia, right? Russia is aligned with China, but similar to like India, they are a part of the West. So like there is this like crazy split where like those countries are getting like pulled towards like the east, like towards the pink south and towards China, towards communism, like towards collectivism. And so like that's how it's like, Putin sucks, but Russia is still the side to be on, like Putin's a criminal, but like if Russia is the side that wins, that means good because that means the West is losing and the West is the biggest destroyer of the planet. Like NATO's carbon footprint is the biggest threat on Earth. Like they are the biggest like output of carbon output in the world is the West military. So, you know, I can't remember what my point was, but